Welcome back to Combust Astrology. My name's Liv. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to be covering Saturn and Aries for Leo risings, whether you have Sun, Moon, or obviously the rising, and how it is that this Saturn and Aries transit is going to affect you in the upcoming months. So let's just go back in time for you guys about how 2021 was, because I think that is the most important thing here. If you're a Leo rising, this story kind of started around that time simply because, thank God, I was worried that I was going to have someone's chart info. Feels like HIPAA. All right, so if we go to, if we go to 2021, what I'm specifically looking for are when the nodes were last here. When the nodes were last here, it was giving you a precursor to what you just kind of experienced, and that was learning how to work with people, learning how to accept that you're different and you attract different people, friendships or relationships, and most importantly, you have to learn to be there for people, right? In 2021, the nodes and also Saturn were specifically placed so that you could understand how it is that other people need you, right? And then as you started to develop these new relationships and you move towards something that you really actually enjoyed in your career, ninth house, seventh house aspects, you developed a new community, 11th house, that actually wants your presence. Or in some cases, you started to be very cognizant of the community that you're now in that maybe doesn't so much reflect the presence that you like, right? Astrology is a duality. So the reason why I always start here whenever I look at your risings is because, it's a pivot point. Whenever I do readings and I look at someone's chart, there's always a period of time where there is the most damage done, right? For Capricorn risings, the easiest go-to is to start at 2008. Everyone, really, because 2008, Pluto and Capricorn did a number on everyone, right? But especially for them, for Virgo risings, I'll check 2014. And that relates to what Saturn and Sagittarius was doing. Wait, no, that was in 2014. I'm going to let the OCD win. I got to see why. But I check different dates just so that people can understand where their most important point of time was. Oh, that's why. The North Node in Scorpio. Which leads to this actual conversation because in 2022, the nodes go back into Scorpio for you guys, right? Scorpio and Taurus. And with that, you guys realized, okay, the future that I want, I have to sustain it through this new persona, right? Like either I'm weird or I'm not. Either I attract weird people or I don't. But ultimately, as Uranus is trekking through your 10th house, it's coming to the conclusion that you need to go after what's real, what's genuine. All right, so that period of time really taught you that as Pluto is making its last attempts into your 7th house. I always look at the smaller transits, meaning anything smaller than Pluto, as a precursor for Pluto. It gives you a little bit of a bird's eye view. And I think that the nodes before your Saturn return gives you a little bit of a look at what it is that you should work on as well. So coming back to you guys, 2021 started that whole cycle. And one of your biggest pros to this, though, is that you understand, or you should have seen a glimpse of what it is that you should walk into. So then when we come into today, or actually let's go into the end of 2023 and we actually talk about Saturn ingressing into Pisces, we can now see that you guys, outside of the beautiful future that you're thinking about, you want also a beautiful love. You want also a everlasting relationship that will give you a sense of balance and a sense of camaraderie. Because of the fact that you guys have Saturn on your descendant, for better terms, that person just, they're going to be a little bit different than you. You know, whenever I look at romance and relationships, Venus, either in Sag or in Aquarius, or having Uranus or Jupiter aspects to it, is always going to be someone that is counter to the culture that they're in, or the person's going to be dramatically. Did I just try to say drastic and they're going to be drastically different than them. So it's, very big. Now, I like to think as well that because of the Leo rising and the Taurus midheaven, it's been a persona that you have to keep up because, having a Leo rising is not easy because you're expected to be the best. And having a Taurus midheaven is not easy because this is a traumatized household. There are secrets in here. And it projects onto your persona because you got to keep the secret going. You got to keep the standard in what you do. So, especially if you have a Scorpio moon or an Aries moon, your mom and you, don't get eye to eye and, stuff like that. But especially with that rising, you kind of keep a standard. You're like, people expect this of you. It's like being stereotyped. No matter what you look like, it's not just like a racial thing. It's like you are this, you're expected to be this. You don't get to get out of that change. And so when looking for love in a relationship, you're like, how can I just feel loved? And so it's not going to be so much, I'm Korean and I need to date a Korean, or I'm Venezuelan and I got to date a Korean. It's like, where can I get my love? It doesn't matter who it is. I just want to get that love. And we go into the next point in your chart about that aspect of love, which is balance, which is also the third house, right? So the third house here is going to kind of emulate a bigger story in that relationship aspect, because depending on what you did now, right? Were you going the route of smiling and waving, or were you going the route of being mad and, probably a little bit too bridge burning? Why am I saying bridge burning? Because of where Mars is in your chart. If your fourth house is Scorpio, right? And watching my videos, you might notice that I take astrology and then I modify it to my interpretations. If your fourth house is in Scorpio, I look at this and I'm like, all right, cool. Family. This is where your trauma lies, right? So you learn about that because the water houses show you your trauma based on when you came into this life, when you are growing up in this life, and relationships, because those are three very important parts of being a human being. So that trauma that you inherited from the fourth house, the sign is going to tell me how it is that you might be able to communicate going back. But then the ruler of the sign, and here in Scorpio, it is Mars, right? What the fuck are you doing? Okay, so sorry about that. The ruler of this is in it's Mars. There we go. And then so Aries here being your ninth house, when you want something, you're coming out of the emotional construct of what it is that your fourth house has given you. And here it's trauma, some serious trauma. It's a lot of stuff. And if you're not conscious of it, then you won't understand why there is a lack of love, or you won't understand why you got smothered by love in your childhood. 12th house Cancer is like you either got a helicopter parent or you witnessed some atrocious ass things and you questioned whether or not people were genuine and had the ability to love, right? So then when it comes to you with your own childhood and you experience things that are fucked up in your family, now when you go after things here in the ninth house, it's desire with an Aries perspective. And if you don't have anything in your third house, that makes it kind of harder, because now you're running through, leading into this current thing that I'm trying to say, which is that burn fucking bridges. Oh my God. Talk about, like, for no reason, just crashing and burning, because Mars operating really from the fourth house. And then if you have any placements in the ninth house that really accentuate that, that doesn't make it like easier. Like, you can't be born with Pluto and Mars, but like Jupiter, maybe Saturn as well. This can now make it so that you really do go out of your way to state that. And sometimes not saying anything is a statement, right? Because you're just like, I'm just not going to talk about it. I'm just going to keep quiet, right? And this is where I'm like, did you smile or did you let it out? Because either way, you had to learn that it's a balance. So now, in those relationships, Saturn and Pisces kind of like was like, all right, let's unpack this shit, because we're not about to go into the rest of these Saturn transits with you not knowing what the fuck you are, right? After you've learned who it is that you find your friendships with, oh, that's not Saturn and Pisces, that's just Saturn. After you've learned why it is that what you're doing isn't really sustainable, after you've learned what it is that you want to go to school for, or what you had fun on the streets for. So moving into that eighth house, it's like, all right, we really got to tap into how you love. So what you'll find is you, during the bigger part of 2023 into last year, because Pluto in Aquarius, the whole cycle was starting it. You were looking for a genuine sense of love, and you probably found it. You probably found it in people. And the thing, though, is that it wasn't going to be there for too long, in terms of, I want to say, the gravity of what your own trauma is. It wasn't going to be there too long, because one way or another, you're going to find a way to sabotage it. Or if you're able to actually maintain it, it's a really uphill battle, because unless the person has really good synastry, this transit is made to destroy you. It is unironically made to reset you. And that might be something hard to hear, because it's like, well, I got with someone and we're working out. What do you mean it's made to destroy me? Then you probably actually figured it out. So this is now where we finally get into Saturn in Aries. For you, the whole point of it is to actually now give you the balance fully. If you're able to find someone and it worked out, I'm happy for you. I would never wish this on anyone. But now that Saturn is in Aries, you're seeking not just the sense of love, but the sense of stability in your own communication styles. Because before, you were just throwing a tantrum and doing what you want and not listening, and probably just being like, no, this is the way I've always done it. This is what I'm going to do, right? The North Node is trining your first house, when it was back here. It was trining your first house, which is in Leo, and then it was also trining your Sag. So you were hot and heavy, and you couldn't slow down to listen, and that's cool. But you're learning, so it's just life, But now that Saturn's here, it's like, all right, slow down, cowboy. Right? You want to be loved so badly, but you can't spin the block. You can't just do all these things. And me giving you the North Node before I came in was really to teach you how to be better at what you want. Now I'm going to teach you to be better at communication styles, if you didn't learn that, right? It's a revision of what you should have known. So now, when we look at what Neptune has already been doing here, it's been very fierce. It's like, I want to be loved. I want to make sure that I can actually create these sustainable relationships that don't spiral. So Saturn in Pisces, while the nodes were there, squared your 11th house, right? And that's why I said it was about love more than anything, because the friendships, if it wasn't about learning, if it wasn't about growing, you weren't there. Like, you weren't doing any nonchalant, useless friendships. Like, it wouldn't work. If it worked, they had to be in your circle, learning what you're learning, or adventuring and doing actionable things. It couldn't have just been, oh, we're just friends. Like, no, not that. That's not. I have had a lot of fun doing that before. That's not what I'm doing now. Right. So there had to be action, because your mutable axis is about action and connection. And here we come back to the the current transits of Neptune, and it showed you that, okay, to make these things sustainable, because life is really about people, how is it that I can get my will and my desires and still maintain relationships? Neptune's already been knocking on your door about that. Venus and also Mercury were knocking on your door about that with the retrogrades, right? And then more recently, the fact that Scorpio has been like doing its big number low key, and people not realizing that until like I do like readings and people ask me about relationship stuff, and I've been like, yo, Lilith, Juno, I think I think Vertex got here. Like, they've been in Scorpio. Ow. They've been like teeter tottering. Let's go back. Yeah, it was Juno more or less. Okay. Let's go back here. Okay. So since December, I've kind of noticed they've been going through Scorpio, and they've been kind of like bouncing back and forth. They've had retrogrades come back, come in. So the first part of the year coming up to now, like, they've been kind of bouncing in and out. And I know some people don't necessarily look at them, but I do, because I see patterns. I'm a Virgo moon. I'm going to see a pattern. And I kind of noticed that, like, they've been fucking some shit up. So for you now, having the two of them in your fourth house and trining your subconscious, it's been a very subtle transit that I believe, especially if you had your own fourth house placements, brought you into connections with people, or at the period of time between January and now, have been a rocky uphill. That kind of tells you, why are you really here? And the Lilith aspect, when the moon, we had a full moon recently, would have most likely destroyed something that doesn't have sturdy ground, because the other person would probably destroy it. Now, you would probably get with someone that you feel passionately lives their life based on the fact of what Saturn and Pisces showed you that you needed in connection, but then circling the Uranus and Saturn, the passion aspect could be there, but the direction could be out of portion. Now, that's not sustainable. So then, coming back into this current state of time, Saturn and Aries is really just going to tell you how it is that you can have both, how it is that you can win. Because Saturn then goes into your 10th house, and everything that you've been working on finally culminates. So before we get there, before I give you all the prize, all the glam, I need to know that you won't crash out, okay? Because you're a crash out dummy, and that's okay. But I need to make sure you won't crash out. It's a really big change in time for you guys. When Uranus goes into your 11th house, and I'll cover that, things are changing. As Jupiter enters your 12th house, things are changing. So Saturn's doing what it's got to do to hard carry you because you're a stubborn person. And that's okay. So coming back, what I really want to say, to summarize here, is that in order to make this transit work out well, you have to be a lot better at your anger. You got to converse better. You got to make sure that you're able to convey how you feel, not let your emotions get the best of you. So that way, when you do walk into that next chapter, that happens, you get a little peak within the next month. But overall, you get like a really new chapter next year. You know how to deal with this energy because it's going to be here for a while. And if you don't take all the gifts that Uranus in your 10th house, that Saturn in the past two Saturns, Pisces and Aquarius, that Jupiter in Gemini has shown you with all these connections that you've been making is going to be a hard transit. Anyway, let's make some updates. So, you guys are getting these updates before everyone else. Congratulations. I'm starting another podcast. I already have one that covers the monthly review. We talk about stuff with my co-host, Anna Kate, and it's called Unadorned Astrology. I always mess that up, and she's going to be like, But I'm going to make my own. It's going to be about dating, because I've been getting asked a lot about this. I personally hate doing relationship transits because I look at someone's chart and I'm like, why are you guys here? But then I look at them and, they got the puppy dog face, and I'm like, I'm going to tear this shit down. Just spin the block in like 6 to 12 months when you guys hate each other. But I've come to learn their lessons. But it's also like, in order to help people find the people that they need, I think I have to help them find themselves. And just doing astrology doesn't seem like it's enough. They have to see it from the other point of view. So I'm going to make it interesting, and I'm going to be sharing how it is that I use astrology in dating, but then also what I noticed in reading people's charts and what I think they'd like, right? Format's going to be weird as per usual, unplanned, and I'll just randomly start dropping. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching. If you need to reach out and yap, I'm on Instagram, Combust Astrology. If you need to book a reading, please don't. My website, combustastrology.com. And if you need to, I have a TikTok. That's it. Okay, thanks. Bye.